There he is, fresh from tying the knot. Congratulations on your wedding, Pat. How does it feel to be a married man?
Thanks, Steve. It feels great.
Congratulations from me, too. Tell us about the ceremony.
We had a micro-wedding in a courtroom in Bedford-Stuyvesant. We wanted to keep things simple and intimate. There was a judge and just a dozen guests, our immediate families and some close friends.
That sounds nice. Very best wishes to you and Arabella.
Thanks. You know, I think it's going to take a while before we get used to referring to each other as my wife and my husband. All these years it's been my partner.
Did you also decide to jump on the tiny house bandwagon and make a big investment in a small property?
No. At first we liked the idea of gentrified living in tight quarters, but we ultimately took Steve's advice to heart and decided on a different course of action. We weren't sure what the market value of a micro-property would be further down the road.
It's interesting how you use the word gentrified. People are using that concept lately to describe not only real estate, but things like food and other lifestyle topics as well. You can see that with traditional ethnic dishes that have caught the fancy of the foodie brigade. Once humble foods like guacamole, burritos, and pho have all been gentrified.
Yes, gentrification has recently taken on a broader meaning, and you can find many examples of that in Bed-Stuy, which is at the forefront of gentrification in the original sense of the term.
I think you made the right decision by not buying a so-called tiny house. Are you still thinking of moving?
No, we'll stay put in Bed-Stuy for the time being. We both like the area very much, and it's exciting to see how gentrification is transforming the neighborhood. Bed-Stuy has acquired a certain cachet with young professionals and creative types. There are all sorts of cool designer cafes, restaurants, retail stores, not to mention lots of hip live entertainment and other cultural events.
I'm hearing a lot about how cool Bed-Stuy has become. Many millennials and young professionals are attracted by its brownstones, low housing costs, and easy access to Manhattan via express subway lines.
You know, of all the changes I've seen in Brooklyn over the years, none has been more remarkable than the way Bedford-Stuyvesant has been reborn as a desirable neighborhood. From the 1950s, its nickname was Do or Die. That captured the spirit of the district all too well.
Yes, Bed-Stuy was plagued by deep poverty, mean streets, shaky housing projects, and a very high homicide rate. But now that gentrification has taken hold, it's a different story.
That's good to hear, but isn't it true that some people have problems with gentrification? They say it destroys neighborhoods and drives out low-income people, the folks who may have helped give an area its funky charm in the first place.
There's a certain amount of truth to that. When a neighborhood is gentrified, it becomes a more expensive place to live. Demand increases and property values go up accordingly. Poorer residents are displaced as wealthier folks move in.
But on the plus side, gentrification means improved public safety, service, and amenities. The crux of the matter is that gentrification means less crime. It brings an influx of wealthier residents and lowers the crime rate. The statistics back that up. Violent crime in Bed-Stuy was down 44% between 2000 and 2016. That's not to say that crime has disappeared, though.
Some studies of the relationship between crime and gentrification have found the opposite result, actually. They say gentrification often leads to increases in crime.
How do you account for that?
Wealthier residents might be more lucrative targets for would-be burglars and robbers, and new arrivals might not know the lay of the land well enough to take the necessary precautions against being burglarized.
You know, in the case of Bed-Stuy, gentrification has caused the population to increase. It's now home to more than 150,000 people. That's 25% more than 15 years ago. The area's demographics have seen a big change.
And did you say that they're mostly young professionals and creative types?
Some of them are immigrants or expats like Pat, and they're likely to have higher incomes than longtime residents of the area. This wave of new arrivals has pushed up the cost of housing, so it's becoming harder for many lower-income people to continue living in Bed-Stuy.
Not all the area's long-time residents think gentrification is bad, though. Homeowners are seeing the value of their property increase. There's been an influx of retailers, which means more goods and services are now available in parts of Bed-Stuy where previously there hadn't been much commercial activity.
Yes, I have a friend who's lived in Bed-Stuy for many years. She says she now has a much wider range of good restaurants to choose from, and it's now a lot easier to find fresh produce in her steadily gentrifying neighborhood thanks to the many well-stocked markets that have recently sprung up there.
Yes, there's no question that living in Bed-Stuy has become more convenient and comfortable. But you shouldn't take it for granted that gentrification means better access to amenities. Market forces by themselves won't bring in the restaurants and shops that match an area's newly fashionable image. Sometimes an active effort needs to be made to get rid of seedy bars and other blots on the landscape.